Morning. What's going on? Good. Let's get to work. We got a little bit of a gap up in the QQQs. Now we've faded, we had an inside day yesterday. Even though the action looked real nasty, felt a little bit, flushy at times. In reality, we were just inside the previous day's range. We don't really know if we're just rounding here or if this is going to be just like a straight, dead cat bounce into resistance. The next few days are going to be very, very tricky because what we essentially need to do is stay over this 328 to kind of get the tech stocks pumping back again. That's going to be really, really important. So till we get over that level and we actually hold, we're still in what we'd call like a choppy market, meaning you're going to have some longs and some shorts. In a trending market, you know what to do, right? It's like, okay, I'm long in, I can hold overnight, I can do all of this stuff. When we're into more of this kind of distribution / choppy zone, there's going to be times in the day you're short and there's going to be times in the day that you're long. I do think that it's still a no swing trade zone, meaning there's no point of holding overnights right now because, you're still in a lot of flux in the market. Unless you're holding overnights in like Dow Jones or, bank stocks and stuff, the rest of this is, it's a no-go, right? But if we start getting over 328, I think that starts pushing us back into that range. And that's when you'll see a little bit more, I would say, speculative kind of fever coming back into the market. The SPY's been holding up pretty well for the most part. You came back into the 50 SMA. I mean, you're right back into highs. So it's not necessarily that the market's just been kind of crap. It's that the tech stocks have been crap. You've got a lot of still like some of the other sectors, home builders and things like that are still actually working pretty well. So if you do like an industry sort, 5-day industry sort, just to see like what's been moving, right? What's holding up. I mean, you can see here, so you've got, right? Coal has been flying. So you see this coal? The black gold, right? The black gold. So this is breaking out. You got 8% move yesterday in coal. So what you want to do is like when you have sectors that are firing, open up the industry watch list. See like what else is going. So you can see here, right? You've got a whole host of these things that are also starting to break out. So you got Arch Coal, you got AMR. This BTU's been flying. You had a flat top breakout here at $5. Like this thing is very tradable. So you've got a whole host of these things that are really working. So you always want to be kind of using a top-down approach of trying to figure out, okay, what sectors are rolling like this department stores. It's boring because who wants to, play Sears? Is Sears still a company anymore? But these things are going. So all you got to do, you go in your TC stocks, you see DDS. Like these are like some hot little numbers over here. You've got range in things. It's just not the stuff that people were trading last year, So you got in the 5-day sort, you've got a lot of sectors here. Gold is pushing. I got a batch of these silver contracts here playing for the silver breakout. If this thing gets over 27, I think you're going to see a big move. For those of you guys that are under PDT too, trading micro futures, is an easy way to still day trade without having to take like big risks and also being able to have a little bit of leverage to go. So they have a micro futures contract for silver, it's SIL, and then MGC is the one for gold. Gold looks like it's starting to push. And then, you can do it even for indexes like NASDAQ and stuff. It's called MNQ. They end up being good traders. So like any of you guys that are ever under PDT, like maybe you run out of a couple day trades here or there, you can trade the indexes back and forth and make a couple bucks too. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. There's a lot of different ways to skin a dog. You can do the cryptos. You can do the futures. There's a whole host of things. Now let's take a look and see. There's a whole host of Chinese names that have earnings out today. IQ's leading the way. So you got, this is like a beaten down name over here. Looks like, a net loss never narrows, revenue increases, blah, blah, blah. I don't think any of that really means anything. but we're gonna see. Jaden. If somebody's gonna be a little cranky in the morning, you gotta, what can you do? Now, you got a break over the 9 EMA here. I'm curious to see if these things hold up. All of them have been fading, getting faded off on earnings. We saw a couple days ago, Billy had like that big gap on earnings, and it got sold off like immediately, right? It ran into resistance and it sold off. So like it gapped up like $6, and then it ended up selling off. I don't know if some of these things hold, but if they don't, like we see a little bit of a topping pattern intraday at the open, we'll take these things down. Baidu's got the same thing. It's got a nice $7 pop on in the morning. They had their earnings out. You're at a little bit of resistance over here. These are probably things that we'll have to watch at the open. The key is if the first dip holds, then we can long these things. But if you start to see the selling coming in as it starts to roll over, we may have to flip these things long. SC's got earnings out. It's getting dumped out already, 5%. I think you can probably see this thing back into the 190s by the end of the day. We'll see how it reacts around the 200 SMA. But a lot of these things do get kind of smoked out. You see Huya here with a flat open also. I think, we need to keep every single one of these. This TME looks really weak. If this thing kind of breaks under 15, I'm thinking this thing flushes back down into, the low 13s, even the low 12s. It's an easy stock to trade too. It's got enough liquidity. It's a little bit thicker, so you can trade it back and forth. On the long side, SRPT's got some news out. You got a nice base breakout over here. I don't know if it holds. SRPT's been trading like a sloot for quite some time. But if it starts to go, you've got a lot of upside on this. The float's only 53 million. Like this one's got some room to go. If it can hold this opening gap. The problem with the markets right now is that a lot of these like more speculative names, when they gap up, half the time we end up fading them because they just can't hold the gap. So we'll have to be mindful. MG&I's got some news out today. It's holding right at the 200 SMA. This was a former high flyer here. It was $5, went to $70. If this first, it's the same thing. If the first dip holds on this bad boy, I think we're going to have ourselves some fun. This has got a chance. It's got a lot of upside to it. What we want to do is watch that first pullback. If it starts to hold at the 9 EMA, 20 EMA, something along that end, then we want to come in hot on these things and see what goes down. Let's take a look at the regular watch list, beyond just earnings plays, because there is some good back and forth movement. If we need some shorts, today, this SQ's got a breakdown and then a pullback into the 200 SMA. We had some nice shreds on it yesterday. The range was pretty good. They also did a $2 billion, it's a private offering, so I don't know how that works, but they did do a little bit of a small dilution, only a couple percent, but there's still, it was getting sold off. This is another one, like if Bitcoin tends to fall off, then SQ often is a proxy with those Bitcoin stocks, and Bitcoin itself is, I think, still pretty heavy. If you're really looking at the Bitcoins, I think probably I would go with maybe about 40,000, 39 to 40,000 is probably a good bounce spot for a dead cat bounce. I think we're in probably a longer term consolidation. The way these things go, whenever you get all the new money come in, right, where everybody starts getting interested in it, that's usually when things get a little bit dicey. But you can see here, you got kind of a little bit lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. I think, probably 40,000 is probably a good spot to maybe try some longs on this. Till then, you're in a much more flux here, because you can see here you got downtrend, very, very light bounces. I added a little bit here of this link in Quantum yesterday. I'm not feeling that froggy about either one of those, but they are low risk, entries. You got a 50 SMA over here. Same thing, I caught a nice dip on this. This thing drops about $20. it's worth taking a small stab. I'm in very small positions on them. And then if they start to build, I'll add to them with stops back under here. But I would be very mindful. This crypto market just feels like it's going to dump. I know everybody's blaming Elon Musk for it, but you can see here, I mean, it was rolling over before he said anything. It was going to do what it was going to do regardless. That's just how markets go. The only one that looks really hot here is this Sol. I've been trading this thing back and forth since it was a couple bucks. I used to have like 30, 40,000 of these fuckers. I didn't hold. But you got still a nice flag breakout here. So if you do need something that could be hot, I think both of those are going to have a little bit of a chance to go. Let's go back into stocks. SQ is on watch for a short. Peloton had a big dump yesterday. I would say big dump, but 7-8 points. It was down about 6% from peak to close. Peak to midday, I should say. It's got a small gap up if the market rolls over. And that's a big hairy if. We don't know yet. We'll take this one. I think SQ, both of those are, potential shorts. Same thing with this run. Every day this thing spikes up and gets faded off. But I do think we should be focusing more on these China names. They're going to make a move irregardless. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, some of these, I got these names on the list, but I'm not that keen on them because they're like in no man's land. I think that some of the cleaner ones is this UPST. Like this thing had an awesome, pulled back to the VWAP, ended up ramping like 15, 12, 13, 14 points. That's pretty hot right there. Like that's something we want to be, part of. And if it starts to clear this 120s, then you've got a lot of upside on this one. Roblox. Oh, hold on, my tickers are not working. Roblox is another one. Like you've got a range break here, sitting around 78. If it can hold, then I think this is going to be another one. I'd like to see it kind of hold over that 78, or let it dump down, round out, and then kind of see what's going down on it. But both of those I think are going to be hot on the long side. And then there's a whole host of these kind of turds that are starting to round like ride and stuff. But I'm thinking this is a no small cap environment still. It's easier to trade like. It's easier to trade like stuff like Seagate here. The range on this is like 10 points. It's easier to trade a few hundred shares of that back and forth than try to get in and try to time with some of these work cocks and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, what are you supposed to do with this stuff? I don't know. So that's why I'm not, even though these are rounding patterns on DDD and laser, the location of them makes them very, very... The location of them makes them just so suspect. Like we don't know, we don't know what's up, and that's the thing. Like when markets bottom and they start to bounce, there's so many layers of supply on them that it's really hard to. It's hard to get them juiced in the proper manner, just because there's levels of supply like every single step of the way. So what ends up happening is like you end up, popping and fading, popping and fading. You know what? I did see this ULBI. I don't know anything about this one. Results just shy of street views. 168 order from U.S. Army. I mean, it sounds actually like nice news. This is small cap stocks are really, really tricky. If one of them is going to get pumped today, by some degenerate with a big Discord room, it's probably going to be this one. Most likely. You already got 2 million shares of volume. It's up 30%. But at least the PR reads good. Like, hey, we got a $160 million order. Blah, blah, blah. Results just shy of street view. Blah, blah, blah. Wearable batteries. That sounds pretty cool. Like, whatever. If you're going to trade it, something like this, this is probably the one. I fucking hate small caps these days. I mean, you say some of those like HTs and stuff. They've been smoking everybody out. They're just trading too choppy. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's Not my cup of tea. I'm a coffee guy. What can you do? Not my cup of tea. I'm a coffee man. But it looks all right. I think we stick with these China names. Let's see which way they open. You got Roblox. You got UPST to the long side. You got on the short side, Peloton, Run, SQ. I think that's the list. We go with it. FSR's a big slut. Big one. It looks okay. Yeah, I'm not my cup of tea. This looks okay. The issue is just like, is this a dead cat bounce or is it rounding? They had some news out a couple days ago. They relaunched some old news to gap it up and sell into it. Fisker, quarter one loss widens. I don't even know if a bigger loss than expected is a big deal because everybody already knows this thing's a big turd. Let's look at it this way. Fisker does less revenue than a good day trader in a day. I don't think it matters if it does any revs or not because nobody's really expecting it, but I think that's probably a stay away for now. This FCX is nice. I think this is something that this is more of a swing trade stock. I don't think it's really a good day trader. It's just too thick, but it's got a decent enough look. Baba, I think Baba is it's at a potential fade spot. I would probably leave this one alone. The only way I would take a gander at this one is if the rest of the Chinese stocks go, then this one's going to have, this one will have some action on it. So to summarize, we got on the long side, we got UPST, Roblox, we've got these earnings gappers to fuck around with. On the short side, we got Peloton, we've got SQ, and then we're going to play all these Bitcoin stocks like Coin and Mara and so on and so forth. These are all looking like they're starting to roll over again. And then we'll see what's going on. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. I don't think this NetEase will have any volume. Even this KC's probably not a priority. Dun, 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 dun. We got Roblox. UPST, I think on the green, red to green is probably the spot. Alright, we got SQ, man. This SQ's a good trader. It took a couple stabs at it yesterday. One of them didn't work, but then once we got the meat on it, we got to do it. Couple things to be mindful of. The open has been really choppy the last, 6-7 days. So half sizes at the open, I would go till the trend sets and then start to hammer it when you see it. The open has been traditionally the first 4 or 5 trades at the open are the best trades because they're planned out. You know what you want to hit. But that hasn't been the case, I would say, about the last week and a half. The open trades have been suspect as you're getting gap fades a lot. So I'd go half size at the open. Make sure, you could throw out testers. Keep the losses real manageable, small. Don't get yourself in a mental funk because, you took a couple small losses. You got to go in expecting it. And then when the trend sets, then you want to be hammering with full size. Or you can just sit out the first 15, 30 minutes, let the trend set and do it. But that's usually not our way. We like going for it at the open and then seeing where the chips lay. That's just my style. Because if I can end my day in 30 minutes or an hour, I always take the chance. Just, a little bit of word to the wise. Look, yesterday, I was 0 for 4 at the open DMAC, but it was just small size, so it's not a big deal. I'm maybe using up a quarter of my max loss or max pain of the day. But then once the trend sets, then, you know, it's just hammer, 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 hammer. That's the only thing I think you can do. Cool. Let's go have some fun today. All right. Let's do what we do, which is the do-do.